Российской Федерации Владимир Владимирович Putin.
A year since his last address to the nation, and his first since the start of what Russia calls special military operation in Ukraine, President Vladimir Putin said the country will do whatever it takes to win. He said Moscow's attempts at dialogue have only been met by hypocrisy and NATO expansion. But going to war was the fault of the West.
It was the West that started the war, and Russia is using force to stop it. The goal of the West is unlimited power. The special operation was launched to protect the Russian Federation and eliminate the Nazi threat.
Security was beefed up in Moscow as hundreds of members of Russia's political elite and armed forces attended his State of the Nation speech. Putin announced benefits to help people and said Russia had maintained its economic strength in spite of Western sanctions. But outside, critics challenged the Russian president's narrative.
This whole decision was based on miscalculations by Russia. He overestimated the power of the Russian military. He underestimated the power of the Ukrainian military. He underestimated the resolve of the Western countries to stand up against Russia.
Putin accused the West of plotting to send nuclear weapons to Ukraine before the invasion. His wide-ranging address was meant to assure the audience at home and warn world powers, including by announcing the suspension of Russia's participation in the START nuclear arms reduction treaty with the United States.
Russia is suspending participation in START. The nuclear arsenals of the UK, France, as well as the US are directed against the Russian Federation. Moscow will take this into account. It is unacceptable that the US has started to reshape the world order only to suit itself.
In the last year, the Zaporizhia nuclear plant in Ukraine, which is the largest in Europe, has come close to nuclear disaster. And the possibility of nuclear weapons being used if the war escalates has been widely reported. Acknowledging the impact of the war, all those gathered at this conference center in central Moscow stood in silence to commemorate Russian service people who died. Putin announced a special fund to assist families of soldiers and veterans. Russia will do whatever it takes to win. The message from a defiant President Putin was to assure his people what you're hearing from the West is untrue. According to him, the West has been unable to isolate Russia, defeat its military, or break its economy. But as the war drags past the one-year mark, there is no denying that the people are beginning to feel the impact. Osama bin Javaid, Jazeera, Moscow.